Hello, I'm Chris Beatty, CEO of American Cannabis.
And I'm Zachary Orrick, President here at American Cannabis.
Coming up, we have a short information video about cannabis, where it came from, what it can do, and the knowledge to help you help the patients. 20 million years ago, cannabis was first grown in Central Asia. Since then, it has traveled all across the globe through different climates and geographical areas, reaching these new areas in every part of the world through merchant trade, birds, and other means. Over many millennia, this has created a wide variety of strains. Until recently, many of these strains were naturally occurring, adapting to their environment. Plants near the equator eventually grew to thrive with temperate climates, growing into long-flowering sativa strains. Cannabis strains far north and south of the equator became indica strains with shorter flowering times due to the early onset winters. Most recently, humans have also come to create hybrid strains, which combine both indicas and sativas, taking the best characteristics of each strain and combining them into a new cannabis genre. There is also another type of cannabis, other than indicas and sativas, known as ruderalis, which originated in the Himalaya mountains. This type of cannabis only contains minute amounts of THC, the cannabinoid in cannabis that we all know and love. One unique trait of ruderalis is that rather than depending on day and night cycles to flower, it relies on how long it's been growing to decide to flower and reproduce. Most recently, this has led some growers to try and combine this trait of ruderalis with indicas, sativas, or hybrids in order to create a plant that will have increased potency but will flower over a period of time automatically. These more recent types of auto-flowering strains are preferable to some growers as it requires less attention to day and night cycles, which is crucial for cultivating most cannabis. Cannabis indica is native to Afghanistan, India, Pakistan, and Turkey. The plants have adapted to the often harsh, dry, and turbulent climate of the Hindu Kush mountains. Indica plants are short and stocky, with bushy greenery and chunky leaves that grow wide and broad. They grow faster than a sativa, and each plant produces more buds. Indica strains often have higher levels of CBD, but the THC content isn't necessarily less. Indica is sought after for its intensely relaxing effects. It may also help reduce nausea, pain, and increase appetite. Cannabis sativa is found primarily in hot, dry climates with long sunny days. These include Africa, Central America, Southeast Asia, and portions of Western Asia. Sativa plants are tall and thin with finger-like leaves. They can grow taller than 12 feet, and they take longer to mature than their indica counterparts. Sativa often has lower doses of CBD and higher doses of THC. Sativa often produces a head high, or an energizing, uplifting effect. If you use sativa-dominant strains, you may feel productive and creative, not relaxed or lethargic. Hybrids are typically grown on farms or in greenhouses, being created from a sativa and an indica strain. The appearance and effect of hybrid strains depends on the combination of parent plants. Many hybrid plants are grown to increase THC percentage, but each type has a unique ratio of the two cannabinoids. Farmers and producers select hybrids because you can often get the best of both worlds, utilizing traits from both indicas and sativas in one strain.
There are many cannabinoids other than THC and terpenes that all have their own unique and helpful effects. CBD or cannabidiol may help with anxiety, insomnia, chronic pain, and addiction. CBG or cannabidiol may help with inflammation, pain, and nausea. It also works to slow the spread of cancer cells. CBC or cannabiachromene may help with infections, anemia, diseases of the immune system, and blood cancers. It also appeared to increase the viability of developing brain cells. CBN or cannabinol can also increase the euphoric effects of THC. This cannabinoid has also been shown to help regulate the immune system and works to relieve pain and inflammation. It can also be a great sleep aid. THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, stimulates cells in the brain to release dopamine, creating euphoria. It can treat or prevent nausea and vomiting caused by cancer medications when other medications do not work. It can also increase the appetite of people with AIDS. THCV, or tetrahydrocannabidiol, can be an appetite suppressant. It may also help with diabetes, reduce panic attacks in Alzheimer's, and stimulate bone growth. Delta-9 THC. This is the THC substrain commonly used in the most potent cannabis strains today. While Delta 8 and Delta 10 are legal in states where Delta 9 is not, they do not produce the same result that is desired and are mostly used as alternatives to Delta 9. Now you may be asking yourself, how does one strain differ from Indica, Sativa, and hybrid effects? This is caused by terpenes, which influence the way cannabis smells and tastes. Terpenes also enhance and direct cannabinoids such as THC, which affect and interact with your endocannabinoid systems. Terpenes are what help direct and influence how THC and some other cannabinoids work for you. Humulene is anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, and an appetite suppressant. It can smell woody, spicy, and herbal. Myrcene is antibiotic, anti-inflammatory, and sedative. It can smell earthy, musky, and clove-like. Oil is antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory. It can have a pungent, evergreen, and minty smell. Bisabool is anti-inflammatory, wound healing, and good for the skin. It can have a pleasant, sweet, and floral smell. Limonene boosts mood and relieves stress. It has a fruity citrus smell. Ocimene is an anticonvulsant, antifungal, and anti-tumor. It can smell sweet, fruity, and citrusy with an earthy, woody, and herbal note. Linalool has a powerful effect on the serotonin receptor, can also help with anxiety and depression. It smells sweet, fruity, and citrusy. Carfilene is an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and antimicrobial. It has a spicy cracked pepper-like scent. Terpenoline is a natural antiseptic and has antifungal and sedative effects. It also has floral and herbaceous notes. Farnesene is anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, and antifungal. It can smell fruity, sweet, warm, floral, and woody. Fenchol is antibacterial, antimicrobial, and has antioxidants. It has a pine and lemon scent. Nerlidol is sedative and relaxing. It can smell woody, fresh, and bark-like. Philandrian reduces pain sensitivity and boosts energy levels. It has a herbaceous, woody, minty, and mildly citrusy smell. Pinene is neuroproductive, anti-inflammatory, and antimicrobial, and has a Christmas tree-like scent. Valencine is anti-allergenic, anti-inflammatory, and has a sweet citrusy scent. This is why there are thousands or even tens of thousands of different cannabis strains, all with their own unique effects. Because combining these terpenes in different amounts alters the way your body will react with each individual strain.
Now we would like to get into how cannabis is created in the modern age. The three main types of growing cannabis are outdoor, greenhouse, and indoor cultivation. Cannabis is an annual flowering plant, meaning it spreads seeds in the fall, which then germinate in the spring, grow out into veg in summer, and flower in the fall to produce seeds before the plant expires in the winter. Sensimilia, which is a term you may have heard of, simply means virgin plant, or for our purposes, unseeded bud. The best cannabis will always be Sensimilia, because in the plant's life cycle, if it goes without pollination, the plant will put in energy into producing larger flowers and more resin glands, which increase the potency and smell of the buds. If the plant does become pollinated, it will start to produce less resin glands and spend more time nurturing seeds so it can reproduce. Outdoor cultivation utilizes the natural climate for your area, relying on the sun for energy, and often utilizes the natural growing media of the area or the soil. Typically, with outdoor cultivation, you will have plants in the ground depending on your environment. You may also have scheduled water times and feed them extra fertilizer depending on the amounts of nutrients in the soil. There are many types of greenhouse cultivation, ranging from simplistic hoop houses, which are designed to be a small step up from outdoor cultivation, simply sheltering the plants from the elements such as rain, snow, or wind. The most sophisticated greenhouses utilize many facets of indoor cultivation while still using the most potent light source available to us, the sun. Indoor cultivation is typically how you produce the highest quality marijuana overall. This is because in an indoor facility, you are completely in control of the elements. The highest quality indoor facilities will control the lighting, humidity, temperature, wind flow, as well as the precise amount of water and nutrients given to the plants. Some growing techniques will even increase the speed at which the plants may absorb water and nutrients. Furthering along the plant's development, they will grow, and during flowering time, they will produce larger trichome-rich buds. Typically, all products sold at one of our retail establishments will be indoor in origin, with only 5 to 10% of flowers coming from greenhouse or outdoor cultivation, which are almost always placed near the bottom tiers in quality. When growing cannabis, you will have male plants as well as female plants. Female plants are what we know and love as they produce the flowers that we smoke. Male plants simply produce pollen to impregnate the female plants so they may produce seeds. However, as we stated previously, seeded flower will never be as good as unseeded flower. Therefore, we should always cull the males from a grow as soon as possible, unless you specifically are wanting to produce seeds. Besides from seed, another way to produce cannabis is through clones, which are simply a cutting from another plant which eventually grows roots and becomes an exact genetic replica of the same plant. This method is how most cannabis is produced, because if you grow many plants from a clone, the consistency of the flower will be the same, while growing from seeds will always have genetic diversity. People have been breeding and creating cannabis since the very first farmers stumbled upon it years ago, working towards cultivating bigger, stronger, more robust, and in many cases, more potent forms of cannabis. The recent rise in indoor cultivation over the past few decades has sparked this along at a compounding rate, as the production rates for an indoor facility happen much faster than in nature, where you have one life cycle per year. At an indoor facility, you can have multiple life cycles, even dozens per year. This has enabled the world's best breeders to create new strains, which have far exceeded the capabilities of the far more typical landrace strains. Concentrates over the past decade have grown in popularity hundreds of times over. Utilizing chemistry as well as engineering, processors are able to produce a much more potent form of cannabis known as concentrates, or as some call it, dabs. Here we will touch on a few of the most common ways that cannabis is extracted to make a much cleaner and stronger form of medicine. The most common being hydrocarbon, ethanol extraction, CO2 extraction, rosin, and hash or dry sift extraction. One of the most common forms of extraction is the utilization of what we call hydrocarbons. While there are many hydrocarbon solvents for cannabis, the most typically utilized will be butane, propane, pentane, and hexane. Using these chemicals to extract out all the cannabinoids from the cannabis flower, when done properly, will result in a cheap, efficient, but very high quality end product, where both the cannabinoids as well as the terpenes are easily preserved, and the finished product should have no plant material left over, along with none of the solvents remaining as well. Approximately 90% of all concentrates on the market today, between sugars, crumbles, shatter, diamonds, sauce, butters, and others, are created using hydrocarbon extraction methods. Ethanol extraction is the most common way to make what is known as distillate, which is a vapor distilled form of cannabis. Most typically, distillate is devoid almost of all other cannabinoids besides THC. This results in an end product with a lot of punch from high THC numbers, but sometimes lacks the body of other processing methods that still retain other cannabinoids and terpenes. Distillate, when combined with terpenes, is typically what is used for vaping cannabis. Distillate is also used for manufacturing edibles. CO2 extraction is another method used for extracting full-spectrum cannabis concentrates. However, its production costs are far greater than its counterpart of BHO, thus making it far less utilized as a primary extraction method, and is typically only done for processing some, but not all, full-spectrum carts. Rosin is a process not utilizing chemical extraction methods, instead relying on pressure and heat to extract terpenes and cannabinoids from dried or fresh frozen cannabis flowers. The yields produced, along with a more labor-intensive process in making rosin, results in a high cost to the processors as well as the consumer. Even with the cost compared to BHO being 7 to 10 times more, there are still dabbers out there who prefer this more natural process of cannabis extract to fill their lungs. Another way of making concentrates is hash or dry sift. This is created not through the use of solvents, but rather simply knocking off the trichome heads from cannabis flowers. Some common ways this is done will be bubble hash, which utilizes ice water to freeze trichome heads and break them off the stalk, which are then collected and become hash. Another way is what's known as dry sift, which may or may not utilize dry ice to simply shake the cannabis, breaking the trichome heads off and collecting them. Sometimes, using this method, you may also press the collected trichome heads into blocks of hash. When making concentrates, your starting material dictates the potential end quality of the final product. Cannabis flower is always used in making a cannabis extract. However, it may come in different forms such as cured, live, and raw. Cured means the cannabis has been dried and is then extracted. Live is when the plant material has been frozen quickly to preserve its freshness, as well as certain volatile terpenes, and then extracted while still frozen. Raw extracts are made from freshly harvested cannabis that has not been frozen. Typically, this must be done within just a few hours of harvest.
Carts come in two major types. 510-threaded carts allow you to attach them to a vaporizer battery. When the product has been consumed, you may dispose of the cartridge while keeping the vaporizer battery. The other are disposable carts, which house the vaporizer battery as well as the cannabis oil into one apparatus, where once you are done consuming, you may throw away or dispose of the entire vape device. The most common extracts found in either type of cartridge are distillates, live resin extracts, or rosins.
Another great way of consuming cannabis is by ingesting it. Just about any food you can imagine can be infused with cannabis. The most typical forms tend to come in sweets such as gummies, chocolate, brownies, sodas, and others. But they also come in a variety of savory versions as well. The effects and potency for orally ingesting cannabis can vary greatly from person to person. Some people can feel extreme effects from as little as 20 to 30 milligrams, while others may need as many as 500 to 2,000 milligrams for relief. When suggesting edibles for a newcomer, please let them know that the onset effects from eating cannabis can take up to 2 hours to take full effect. So when trying edibles for the first time, make sure you start off slow and don't do too much at once. Edibles can be made with distillate or full spectrum oil. Typically those made with distillate have a slightly stronger effect, while those made with full spectrum oil typically will have a more well-rounded effect. RSO, or Rick Simpson oil, is a type of full-spectrum cannabis extract with a highly medicinal value. When administered properly, it can relieve nausea, help with sleep abnormalities, reduce pain, and even fight cancerous cells. RSO is technically an edible. However, it's best consumed sublingually or as a suppository. It may also be applied directly to the skin on lesions or melanoma. Here is a chart detailing how to administer RSO for a 150-pound person. However, if the patient is 50 pounds heavier or lighter, please add or reduce by 20%. It is very important when taking RSO for this purpose to never miss a dose. The doses should be applied constantly throughout the day and night, approximately every 4 hours. During the 2.5-month treatment, normally one will start with a half grain of rice, doubling the dosage every 5 to 7 days, until reaching an amount of approximately 6 grains of rice per dosage, which should be administered no less than 5 times per day at regular intervals. When you have reached this amount, which should be at week 5 of the treatment, you will stop increasing the dosage and continue to administer this amount for approximately 1 month.
There are many ways to consume cannabis, such as smoking, vaping, edibles, and dabs. Here we will touch on just a few of the most common ways to do these. When smoking flower or shake, many will use a pipe, bong, as well as pre-rolls, joints, or rolling a blunt. Vaping is one of the easiest ways to consume, as its high potency and discreetness can be ideal for many consumers. Edibles are meant to be ingested, but as previously stated, be careful as the effects can be potent. Speaking of potency, patients also dab highly cannabinoid-rich concentrates. Some of the most common forms of dabbing will be using a dab rig or a nectar collector.
Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope the information was informative and you can use it to positively affect those around you. Welcome to American Cannabis.